Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Our guest today is Paolo. So, Paolo, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Paolo Gilfillan. I'm CEO of Scenarion, which is a business-to-business technology organization. Pleasure to be on the show. Thanks, Dan.
And where are you based out of?
Toronto, Canada.
Toronto. Awesome. So, I'm just curious about your story. Like, how did you kind of get into this business? And what's your background?
Yeah, I mean, if I start with Scenarion in general, it was a privately held organization for a lot of years, originally incorporated in 1983 under sort of different branding. But I joined that privately held organization in a very different sort of sense and structure back in 2005. So been with that sort of structural environment for 20 years prior to it being, or prior to the state of which it's now. It was a privately held company, as mentioned, but we've exited that back in 2022 to a publicly traded organization, wonderful company called the Lamb Team that has really enhanced sort of the operational excellence of the business.
So, in terms of Scenario, I'm just curious, like, who is your ideal kind of customer and what do you do for them exactly?
Yeah, so the way we look at our market, and we operate a number of different types of businesses, some of which are adjacent, but the common thread for us is business to business technology. If you think about our tagline, which is elevate your employees, every time we're expanding our technology, looking for M&A, so acquisition targets to bring new developments to our existing customer base or expand it to new markets, the common thread is always how does this serve other businesses, and how do we elevate our companies and customers, employees in a way that meets our company values.
So if you can share kind of an example of some of the B2B customers, without even mentioning names, maybe just like a vertical, like an example of a company that works with you currently and just how you best serve them.
Yeah, so again, Scenarion, we have about 4 different business lines so far here in North America. And so customers vary, tremendously. We work with everything from, kind of a Joe's body shop, small business that is just looking to schedule their employees and offer their employees easy technology to manage their availability, request time off. That is a full line of a business suite that we offer to small business organizations, all the way up to large scale Fortune 500 organizations that are looking for that type of technology, but at a tier 1 enterprise level, where they will automate union agreements and compliance elements. So we're helping them from an administrative perspective while engaging employees and making it easy for them to track their time, what they're doing throughout the day, because that can have an effect on their pay or allocation, as well as their scheduling and PTO, etc. And in addition to that particular business unit, we also offer sort of a security side of the organization. So some of these large organizations would use our business for managing their video security, their physical access control as well. And so organizations can range from large scale universities, they can range from large retail businesses that are sort of nationwide. Healthcare is a big vertical for us. So retirement living and long-term care has a lot of complexity around compliance, but also ensuring that the staff has more time to spend with the patients rather than on administrative tasks. So it's a big element of what we do. Manufacturing as well as a large sector for us. Again, a lot of complexity with how people are paid, depending on what they're doing or how many widgets they've made. Maybe they get a different rate of pay. So we help automate that so employees appreciate what we're doing, because they want to make sure that their paycheck is right every single week or bi-week or month or however they're paid. And businesses really appreciate it, because being able to offer this complexity and these types of employer-employee relationships often comes with a lot more of administration element to it. So they don't want to increase their costs by hiring a bunch of administrators to calculate these elements, which can also be error prone because humans make errors. So our technology helps automate those elements.
For sure. And then I guess like what does that balance kind of look like between the technology versus the human side of things? Like it's like, I mean, especially now things are changing very rapidly with AI. So how do you kind of bring those two things into the mix to add as much value as possible for your customers?
Yeah, we think the users of our various applications are really smart individuals. And what we try to do when we're thinking about, our AI tool, which is called SAI, so Scenarion AI, and how that helps them operate, how the features and functionality of our various technologies help the users, we're always thinking about it in a way of allowing them to make bigger, broader decisions, but ensuring that we're providing them with all the right information at the right time. So an example would be if I'm a scheduler for ABC, company for this retail store, and I know my employees best. I know that better than any technology would know. And I think that one thing with Scenarion is we sort of appreciate and lean into that concept. So we're not trying to take over from that perspective. But as that scheduler is trying to make decisions on who's going to come in, or maybe there's a big sale coming on Friday, and I need to understand who are the right people at the right time that I should place within the schedule. I need maybe recommendations, or I need guidelines, like allow the technology to let me know if I've overstaffed that day or I've understaffed, right? I mean, a lot of retailers are worried about not delivering the right experience to their customers, but also ensuring that their resource costs are managed, in an exceptional way so that, they can keep prices, down and competitive for their customers as well. So our technology we look at it as a tool that is allowing users to get a quality experience and make good business decisions on a day-to-day basis that align to sort of the corporate objectives of the organization.
Got it. And then in terms of the technology, obviously, like so you mentioned, certain verticals like manufacturing, even healthcare. In those verticals, sometimes there are other components, right? It's not just staffing of humans, but also you have staffing or just planning of certain materials for manufacturing or ordering of inventory. So do you guys handle that at all, or is it really just focused on staffing and human capital, they say?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends what business unit we're referring to, but the word Scenarion is really a derivative of synergy. So when we're bringing technology to our customers' environments, we're going in with the expectation that we're tying into other very important mission critical applications. So a lot of Scenarion customers today on what we call the human capital side of our business, our HR technology side of the business, if you will, we are often integrating to their ERP system, their payroll system, other HR utilities, finance systems, manufacturing resource planning systems like that you would have just mentioned. So we like to pull and push information accordingly to really be a piece of a bigger puzzle to that organization. On the security side, we're often integrating to all kinds of various technologies. We work with environments that a school district, for instance, might have, sensories throughout the facility to make sure that no one's vaping in the washers, for instance, which can be, dangerous. They can integrate to turnstiles, and when a certain access point is used, video application is being met. And these applications sometimes all work together. So organizations that work with us might say, when a staff member enters this particular area of the building, we also want to seamlessly identify that as their start of the day or their end of the day, which can affect how they're paid, to seamlessly create an experience that is great for the employees, is great for the employer.
For sure. And then in terms of your customers, like you were talking about North America, so are most of your customers here in the States? Are they in Canada? I mean, do you have customers even outside of North America? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a global organization, and my role here is everything North America. The US is by far our largest market, if you will. Canada is a wonderful market. We do tremendously well there, but mostly I would say Canada and US, and a lot of the organizations we work with as well have facilities in Mexico as well that we would continue to operate with. So that's sort of the main part of when we're working with organizations. They're normally head officed and making decisions inside of North America. But a lot of our organizations that we work with here, even in North America, have many global business, facilities or sites that also need additional management. And so we will see our application being used with a US-based organization, for instance, that might have operations in Canada, in South Africa, in France, in the UK, Philippines, Costa Rica, etc. So that's not uncommon for our direct customers inside North America to see. But again, we're a global organization. We're part of the Milan team business unit, which is 5,000 employees globally. And, we'll see organizations all over the world using, various technologies that we offer.
In terms of your vision, right? I mean, obviously right now we're in Q2 of 2025. So what are some of the biggest goals and objectives that you have for the rest of this year?
Yeah, it's a great question. I try my best to think a little bit further out than just sort of in year. But every single day, to me, I have a lot of different customers, if you will. I've got the traditional customer, that is using our technology and acquiring from our business and various sort of technologies and services from us. And so my goal with that is to always deliver great technology and great service to those particular customers. And I'd like to see that every single day and every single, month and quarter and year. And in addition to that, employees are, customers of mine. I want to ensure that we're creating a really wonderful environment for our staff. That's something that has always been important to me in any leadership role that I've ever held. I've always felt that we do this, most of the waking hours of the day we're working, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's a big part of our lives, and we should be able to have fun and enjoy what we're doing and be respected and, be part of a good cultural environment that allows us as employees to, feel good about the interactions that we have on a day-to-day. And I believe when you take care of employees, they'll take care of your customers. And just on a personal note, I've had customer services before in engagements or interactions that I can just tell that employee hates what they do. And when I have that interaction, it makes me feel less about the service that I'm getting. So if I'm calling a telecommunications company about an issue with my internet or my cell phone, and that person on the phone, comes off as highly engaged and passionate about what they do, I feel good about that interaction. Whereas, if I'm in a hospitality or hotel environment and I'm checking in and the person's on their phone and they're almost annoyed that, I'm there interacting with them, I feel bad about that interaction. So I think that organizations that take really good care of their employees and create a great, engaging environment, that spills into the type of experiences that their employees will have. So every single day, I'm thinking and worried about, well, what are our employees enjoying it here? Are they engaged? Are they taking care of, our customers? That's really, really important. And we're a business like any other. We really want to provide value to our stakeholders. That's really, really key. So, within a given year, I am, want to make sure that we're offering value to stakeholders. We're meeting the goals and objectives that are set out for that particular year. Maybe it's a revenue number, maybe it's a profit number, maybe it's subscribers or employees that are using our applications. There's a lot of different metrics that we look at to manage the organization, but these are sort of short-term, metrics that we look at to ensure the health of the business.
For sure. And then in terms of, making sure that you have this high touch and high level of customer service, like you mentioned, in North America, it's about 5,000 folks. So are they sort of just spread out throughout the country? Like, are you able to get FaceTime with your customers if and when needed? Like, what does that kind of look like in terms of distribution of your team?
Yeah, a point of clarity, the 5,000 employees is globally.
Okay, got it.
So not just necessarily within North America, but to answer your question around the distribution of the workforce, we have a lot of remote workers. We have, really embraced a remote working environment for a lot of years, even pre-COVID. During COVID, we leaned into it a lot. We find a tremendous talent pool out there as well when, we're not worried about the geographical location as much of the employee. Our number one objective every time we're doing a hire is just the right fit for the role, first and foremost. And then, appreciating and understanding sort of the remote element or geographical element of it. But we do have employees dispersed all throughout, North America. And that is something that we embrace. As far as direct customer interactions, if we do have people that travel quite a lot, so there are, a number of individuals that are on the road fairly frequently that are interacting with customers when it's needed. A lot of our services are capable of being delivered fully remotely, which I would say, is the main interaction that a lot of customers prefer nowadays. So they can get meetings exactly when they want. They can get next day meetings with us, and they don't necessarily need to worry about someone driving out physically or flying out to be able to sit and have a conversation with them. So it's a mix of both. But again, short answer, highly dispersed throughout North America.
Awesome. So if you could go back in time to before you started as a CEO of this company, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
Well, that's a great question. And the way I think I want to answer that is, what is the advice I give my children today about sort of the world and how they can ultimately be successful? And not necessarily something that maybe I didn't know when I was younger, but something that I potentially intuitively did. Every job I've ever held, whether it was a minimum wage part-time job, I always went in with the right mindset, I believe. And this is what I impose upon any young entrepreneur that asks me questions similar to that, or even my children. Every time you're heading into that, first off, be the best version of yourself. I don't necessarily like to suggest that you have to go in and just be the best and compete per se. There's nothing wrong with, good, healthy competition, but that's never, an area that necessarily drives me personally. I've always looked at a role that I'm working or tackling or thinking about as, how do I compete with myself? I want to be able to finish the day and go home and look back and say, did I give it my all today? So just sort of approaching the task, the job, the career, whatever it might be, in a way that allows you to feel comfortable that done everything you felt that you should have done. That doesn't mean that there's not room for errors or mistakes, but the opportunity to say, yeah, I gave it my all today. I put everything out there and I worked, I did everything I could. The second element is work ethic. I think that people that are really, really successful can, sometimes have very natural, abilities that allowed them have been successful. Maybe they've had things that were provided to them that other people might not have had that necessary opportunity. So I think a lot of people do have opportunities that they can, certainly find a path to be successful. But even with all of the opportunities, or sometimes without the right opportunities, I believe if you just work really, really hard and be proud of the work that you're putting into, again, that task, job, career, etc., that you are putting yourself in the best possible position to be successful. I've seen hardworking people that are necessarily unhappy about the successes they've had, so I don't think it's a proven model that works for everybody.
Sure.
But I believe that if you do put in that work ethic, you're giving yourself the best possible chance to be successful. Opportunities will come, and when they're there and you're working really, really hard, they tend to sort of meld together with sort of an ultimate outcome, if you will. And then the third thing that I've always felt that I've done, and again, none of these things, I feel like teenager Paolo was thinking about this and saying, hey, this is how I'm going to approach anything. There's things that I've done that I look back and say, wow, I'm glad I did that or thought that or had that mindset. But the opportunity to learn, I don't have any ego at all. I have very senior leaders report to me, people that have many more years experience than even I have. And I don't look at it as, well, I have to teach you or you need to learn from me. I always approach every interaction I have with, well, what can I learn from this particular person? And going back to the early days of my life, every job that I've approached, I've gone in saying, hey, I'm going to learn things. What am I going to learn? Just being really open to learning and not just sort of expecting that it was, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the minimal, I'm going to do my task, and, no one can teach me anything, and I'm smarter than everybody else here. I've never, ever, ever approached anything that way. And I think that that has served me really well, because being open to learning, things from other people have allowed me to learn, I believe, a lot. and absorb a lot of information that has played well for me later in life.
That's really good advice. Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, I think to your point, right, like a lot of the time, I guess it's one of my favorite expressions, like the harder you work, the luckier you get. Obviously, to your point, it's not always like 100% binary, but there's definitely some truth there for sure. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, or if they wanted to find your website or company, do you mind sharing your LinkedIn or email or website or all those things, just best ways for people to reach out and get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. I love interacting with people, especially on topics similar to this. So Scenarion.com would be our main website, if you will. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Paolo Gilfillan. And, you can DM me and connect with me and, love to interact with people.
Paolo, thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.